Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Space Engineers. In the past few videos, I've talked a lot about your drilling systems. However, I don't really discuss what's the next step from getting the ore on a ship or in a platform in your cargo containers, getting it from there to making things. And that middle part of the chain that I'm missing is our refinery setups. And so today we are talking about refineries. So starting things off, we're just going to kind of talk about your basic refinery. Your basic refinery is a small 2x1 block. Its sole purpose is to get you enough materials to build your large refinery. And you're at some point in time in the game, you're going to have a setup similar to this, where it's going to be either a connector going directly into your refinery, or it's going to go through like a small cargo container. And that's about it. Like, once you've gotten your large refineries, there's really no use for your basic refinery. There may be an argument with, like, if you're just processing ore that you're going to be throwing out anyway. So if you just want all of your stone to be handled by your basic refineries and use your larger refineries for for all your proper ore, I don't know. However you want to do it. But from here, we're going to move over to kind of our basic large refinery setup, which kind of looks the exact same as this one. And this is it. So our basic large refinery setup just has all of your ore initially going into a cargo container. And I'm going to specify, I feel like this is a really good practice to have all of your ore being intaked into a cargo container, or 2 or 3, depends on how much ore you're bringing in. If you have a large mining rig that has 6 cargo containers in it, have 6 intake containers. Or if you're having that system just process it there, I mean, you kind of do how you want to do it. But essentially, you're going to have your system connect to your refinery through a connector into your refinery. And I always suggest at this point having a sorter at the end of your refinery chain, because what this keeps, it keeps materials from backfilling into your intake containers, or if you are direct connecting from your vehicle into your refineries, it keeps materials from backfilling into your vehicle while you're trying to process your ore. So from here, we're going to kind of go into what I'm going to sit here and say, like 3 different slightly more complicated setups. And I'm not going to sit here and say each one of these is the right setup for you. However, each one has its upsides, each one has its downsides, and I might not even cover how you set yours up, but I'm not necessarily saying the way you set it up is wrong. The way you set up could be much better than this. So with that, let's move over to, let's say, probably my most used setup. And here it is. So with this setup, I have very similar, everything going into a cargo container. From here, I kind of dictate which of my ores are a higher value, which of my ores are a lower value. And from here, what I will do is I will set up one of these refineries using the sorter blocks as for my high value ores, and the other set of my refineries for my low value ores. And then from there, on my high value ores, I'm going to put like yield modules on the back of each refinery. And on my lower value ores, I'm going to do something like speed modules. Or I might not even do any modules starting off. I may just put power modules on the back of it. And from here, what that kind of really does is allows me to kind of dictate which ores that I want to process. It not a whole lot of control on which of those high value or low value ores are getting processed currently. You may have to go in and manually adjust them from time to time. And there may be an argument of maybe adding like a 3rd refinery set, and that is like processing things that you would need for like ammunition, such as like magnesium. But from there, that's kind of on you. The benefits of this system is it allows you to kind of really dictate which ores that you want to prioritize, and then allows you to kind of set up which modules you're going to be using for each set of ores, while not having this overly complicated system, and also while keeping like power management at a reasonable level. And if you do it right, you can actually make it a very compact system. I mean, yes, it's still two refineries at minimum. But you can compact that down pretty tightly if you need to. And it's also very server friendly. Now, the only thing I do suggest when you set them up like this is on the back, you're going to also want to do 2 more sorters. And the reason why you want to do that is if you have sorters on the front of the refinery, but no sorters on the back, they're just going to backfill into each other. You're going to have one refinery for your high value stuff be like, oh, hey, look, there's stone over here. I'm going to pull it through the other set of refineries into my, it doesn't make sense logic wise, but it is how the game thinks. Plus, at the same time, it also kind of keeps, you can kind of have it pulling ingots out at the same time, and it keeps kind of everything from backfilling into your intake. So from here, we're going to kind of go a little more scaled up from here. And we'll be right back with that. So on this one, how this one kind of works, same thing. You're going to be intaking into your cargo container. But from here, you're going to have a dedicated refinery for every single ore. So you're going to have a refinery for iron, a refinery for nickel, cobalt, silicone. And I realize it's more than 6, but essentially what you're going to be doing is that. You could maybe consolidate things like gold and silver into one, but really the idea is you're going to be processing all of your ores at the exact same time. Now, the benefit of this system is you're never going to have to pause production or shift ore priorities because it's all processing at the same time. Downside is a lot of servers don't like setups like these. And it takes a lot of power to manage all of those refineries at the same time, especially if you want to operate at peak efficiency. But a kind of an upside on that is you get to really kind of dial in which ores you specifically want to manage. So on the backs of each of these refineries, you're going to have all of these different module ports, and you could put whatever modules you want. So for stone, you could put all speed. For iron, you could maybe put a couple yield, a couple power. You get to really dial in how you want each ore processed. But like I said, the cost is a lot of power, and some servers don't like these massive refinery systems because it's a lot of different parts moving, because even though we don't see it, the game is still logically processing the flow of different materials through the conveyor systems. So really large systems like these can really, especially if you have, let's say, 2 refineries per, or it can get really, really large and really, really complicated. Speaking of really, really large and really, really complicated, let's move to a really complicated setup that I probably wouldn't use, but I'm pretty sure somebody would find some sort of use for. So our last system we're going to be looking at today is different. So we have our cargo container that we're going to be intaking a lot of ores into, but from here is where it gets kind of different. So each one of these different sorter blocks is set to a different ore, with the section of this sorter block right over here, and I'll get to that one here in a second. And each one of those buttons triggers one of these timer blocks. Now, ideally, how this works is if I want to only process my iron, I'm going to hit the button right over here. It's going to sit here, shut all of the other sorters off, and just turn on the sorter for iron and feed only iron into the system. Now, the plus side of this is it allows you to kind of really be like, hey, I really need magnesium. So you're going to go over to your little button panel and hit magnesium, and it will process only magnesium. The downside is if you kind of forget you're only processing magnesium and you run out of like other things, you're kind of SOL. Unless you have a timer block that will only allow it to process a singular ore for up to an hour. And once the hour is up, it then shifts into, I'm going to process all ores. Now, if you're doing a system like this, I suggest one other function to maybe add aside from the limiting the sorter blocks to only being on for about an hour, or 30 minutes, or however long you feel that you need. I think the max time that a timer block can delay is an hour, is having a system set up to clear the refinery. Because let's say you want to process different ores specifically, sometimes it could be like, I really need magnesium because I'm burning through all my ammunition, but there's a bunch of cobalt processing in your refineries. It's going to prioritize that cobalt unless you clear or manually adjust those refineries. So I suggest is set up a button in another sorter. And all that does is it takes all of the ore in the refineries, pushes it back into your cargo intake, that's what this sorter over here does, is it takes all of the ores out of the refinery, pumps them back into the intake while you dictate what ore it is processing at that time. So with all of these, let me know in the comments down below. Any of these that you think you may try in your next game? Is there a refinery system that maybe you do slightly differently? Feel free to just let me know. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a like. If you like me, I would very much appreciate a subscribe. And if you feel like you have, like I said, any suggestions, questions, don't hesitate. Let me know down in the comments below. I try to answer as much as I can. It's been a busy few weeks since summer has started, so I'm trying to keep up with school, summer work, family emergencies, so just trying to kind of keep it all, and I'm trying to get it all up to date, but I do at least read every comment that comes through. And until then, have a great rest of your night. This is the Kilted Bastard signing off.